in Alberta, you will have a referendum on the separation before the end of this year. And with Carney there, I believe that Carney will do his best to give what Albertan wants, but this country may not exist in 5 years. The unity of this country is in danger, and the prosperity of this country, we don't have any prosperity with this inflation and more deficit, more debt. It will be a tough time. I said that Monday night. It will be a tough time for every Canadian the next 5 years. We will be poor. The unity of this country is at risk. And I said the PPC platform must be adopted to save this country. But we will be there, and you will be there. We will do that fight together. And I know that we will win.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Empower Hour. My name's Tanya Gaw, and I'm the founder of Action for Canada. And I'm super delighted tonight to have our special guest, Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, join us so that we can review the election results and talk about what's next. So welcome, Maxime. As for some of you, I've seen some things, a little misinformation going around the social media, Maxime, about you, saying that you've never won a seat and not been elected. And I just want to set the record straight. You were an MP for the Conservative Party from 2006 to 2018. And from 2018, you founded the People's Party of Canada and until 2019. So you have great experience as a politician. You have a legal background, you have a financial background, you were the former minister, I believe, of foreign affairs, business, tourism, and agriculture. Like, you just have this wealth of information as leader of the party. And so for those of you out there who are kind of new to this, it was something every time I saw it come up on social media, I'd roll my eyes. But anyways, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. You must be exhausted, sir.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm very pleased to be with you. And yes, like you said, I'm not a professional politician. I did work 19 years in the financial sector in Montreal before being in politics. And I just want to say to Canadians, we created the People's Party in 2018, like you said. Our first election was in 2019. But if you look in UK, it's not going very well. They have mass immigration, but they have one leader, Nigel Farage. And it took for Nigel Farage to be elected in Parliament in UK 8 times, 8 elections, and he was able to win at the last election. And now, is first in the polls if there's an election tomorrow in UK. So when you want to do a revolution, it will take more than one election. And, I believe that will be successful. It's a question of time. We have the right ideas and the right policies for the future of this country. So that's why I'm in politics, and I'm ready. I'm like you, Tanya, and Action for Canada. We want bold changes, and we are educating and informing the population about the issues with real solutions.
And that's what I appreciate you, Maxime, and the party. And I just want to thank you, your team, the candidates, your volunteers for working so hard in the face of opposition, of criticism, of people who, I don't want to say they're cowardly, but at the same time, fear was driving them to vote for the Conservatives because of this campaign to inflate what was going on. I call it, as earlier I said, this self-inflicted tariff war with the United States, and then to ride on through that into this election rather than the issues that matter, such as mass immigration, what's happening, to our children. I mean, we have such a list of issues, the money laundering, the drug cartels, and none of that was central in this election. And it was a travesty.
Yes, you're right. And actually, Tanya, that was not an election. For me, that was a referendum on, the 51st state. Mm-hmm. And the media with Carney and Poilievre were very, successful to say to Canadians, Trump is our enemy. He wants to destroy this country. We are proud Canadians. We don't want that. So we need to have a trade war against the US. We'll impose counter tariffs. And, that was not the solution. And that's why I'm saying it was not an election, because people decided, okay, who's going to be the best one to fight against Trump, Poilievre or Carney? And that was the vote, and the election was very, concentrated on these issues. And for mass immigration, like you said, it was not the top issue for this campaign. And for us, we wanted that to be the top issue for this electoral campaign, because it's having a huge impact, as you know, on our standard of living and the social fabric of our country. But I just want to tell you, I did travel across the country in 2021 at that election, and I did that this year at this election. And I can tell you, Tanya, I saw the mass immigration this year. I can tell you the big difference with 2021 and 2025. It's everywhere. We have people here coming from Asia and also Africa who don't speak English and French, all across the country, not only in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, but in small town in PI and in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. It's all over. And I understand why 70% of our population are saying enough is enough with mass immigration. But that was not the subject. That was, a referendum on Trump and the 51st state. And we had a fake patriotism coming from Carney and Poilievre.
Yeah, they managed to rally Canadians in a way where, I'm sorry, but I was disappointed. I was frustrated over how easily Canadians are still being led astray. I thought COVID would have woken up many of them to the corruption and that they would double down and second guess. But truly, this was something that was manifested specifically for such a time as this, for this election. And it worked brilliantly. And I just don't know what it's going to take for Canadians to wake up and really move forward with their convictions and question anything that comes from the Liberal or Conservative Party.
Yeah, it will need more pain, more pain. If they actually, I spoke about the unity of this country during the election, and now you can see in Alberta, Danielle Smith just did an announcement. She wants for Albertans to be easier to have a referendum. She will change the legislation. And I can tell you, in Alberta, you will have a referendum on the separation before the end of this year. And with Carney there, I believe that Carney will do his best to give what Albertan wants. But this country may not exist in 5 years. That was not part of the platform of the Conservative, speaking about, radical decentralization, a change in equalization formula. That was not a concern for the Conservative, and that's why I said to people in Alberta when I was there, to Albertan, the Conservative are taking your vote for granted, and you are still voting for them when all your concern, it's not part of their platform. So please wake up and smell the coffee. That's what I told them. And actually, you have in Quebec that separatist movement with the PQ. So the unity of this country is in danger, and the prosperity of this country, we don't have any prosperity with this inflation and more deficit, more debt. It will be a tough time. I said that Monday night. It will be a tough time for every Canadian the next 5 years. We will be poor. The unity of this country is at risk. And I said the PPC platform must be adopted to save this country.
Oh, Maxime, the platform was amazing. I've watched since 2018 as you developed it, and every time you saw the new situation, the strategy of the globalists to attack our Western sovereignty, you didn't just react, you responded. and you really truly made it part of your party platform. And I don't think there was one item on there that Canadians, would reject. And yet they decided to really move towards maintain that conservative and liberal vote. And the country has truly never been in such a state of division. We're looking at potential Western independence. All of this was avoidable from the very get-go. Everything, I had you on right away when Trump was talking about making Canada the 51st state. He knows how to get under people's skin and get them going. What he wanted was reasonable. He wanted a secure northern border. He wanted the drug cartels cleaned up. He wants the extremists out of this country and not plotting against the United States, using us as a home base, so to speak. Canadians want the same things that Trump wanted. He wanted to negotiate a new deal that was good for America. And you've repeatedly brought the good common sense politics and clarified and well-defined what the issue actually was. And the knee-jerk reaction towards the PPC, even towards Action for Canada, we've had a whole lot of support, but there's once in a while those people that come across and send a little zinger and arrow our way for supporting the PPC party, because the Bible talks about for lack of knowledge, a people perish, and you can see why. We're talking perfect common sense. We're explaining truthfully what is going on and what the threat is, and still people would rather walk towards the danger and walk for whatever is familiar, vote for what is familiar, than take the kind of necessary change to save this country.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I had the opportunity to do a couple of podcasts during the campaign, one with Tucker Carlson. And for him, mass immigration in Canada, in Europe, everywhere, it's a big challenge for our Western society. It's the replacement theory in action in Canada. And, Tucker loves Canada and Canadians. And he was not so happy with the conservatives and the liberals about that, because they don't speak about that. And it's a little bit late right now. It's not too late, but, every year it's worse and worse. And I don't know, but I can tell you, we're going to be out there. Like I said, when Canadians will be ready, we will be there, the People's Party. But we're going to work hard. We have to work hard and be, the campaign for us just ended, but a new campaign is starting to be out there with our ideas, to be ready for the next election that may happen in 2 years. We don't know, but we need to be ready.
Well, they've got a definite minority government right now. I think there's still a couple of ridings that are in question. I'm a little concerned because of what we went through here in BC with the provincial election. And it just seems that, we talked about potential election fraud. I know there's a lot of things going around on social media right now, but I think the focus needs to be at the community level. I think that we really need to say, you know what? Put your boots on, get busy, get out there. And you were talking about really getting qualified candidates ready, not at the 11th hour, but building in the next 2 years to be ready for that. And you and I are in agreement that these candidates need to be well known within their community. And that is of such a benefit, managing to go into the different communities within the churches, door knocking, being part of events so that people know your name, because the marketing of the Conservative and Liberal Party right now is the direction that people are still going towards.
Yeah, and they have a lot of money, the Conservatives and the Liberals. They spend about $35 million each during this campaign. And we, as a young political party, spend about $400,000. So you cannot compete. But what you can do, like you said, our candidates must be more active in between the elections. And actually, I was with a couple of our candidates the night of the election, and they told me, Maxime, tomorrow morning, I'm back on the street speaking with my people, but I want to be sure that I'll be your candidate. I said, yes, you have a lot of experience now. And what we will do, personally, I will be in touch with each one of our candidates the next couple of weeks. But we want to have a process, a fast process to approve our candidates right now. and they will be able to be out there, and they will have more time to be known in their community. That's important. That's the basic. Yes.
I think it's critical. So let's turn to. I thought it was interesting in Boyce where you were running, of course, your hometown, and you ended up with 5.8% of the vote with 36, just over 3,600 votes. Maybe that's increased since then. The NDP a mere 1,095. Conservative Jason Grullo, do I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, 37,000, 659.7% of the vote, which is a huge reflection. Very thankful that the Liberals didn't win in that riding. So that at least is positive. Do you have anything else to add to what went on?
Yeah, absolutely. I said to the team in Beauce that I won't be able to be there every day during the campaign, the 36 days, I think. And that's why I wanted to have a strong volunteer team. And I had that. I want to thank them. We had about 65 volunteers knocking on door almost every day. And so that's why I decided to go back in Beauce. I had a choice to go back to Portage-Lisgar in Manitoba, where I had 18% of the vote in a by-election, or going back to Beauce. And before deciding to go back to Beauce, I did have a discussion with maybe 5 or 6 dairy producers, because I wanted them to understand our proposal. And, I told them I'm offering, cooperation, because I strongly believe, and you can read, Trump said that we must get rid of that cartel if we want to have a free trade agreement with the US and Trump and Mexico. And they told me that they understand that. And I said, I'm speaking about compensation, fair compensation for the abolition of that cartel with a transition period. And they told me, Maxime, if you're speaking like that during the election, you'll have more support from the dairy producers. Actually, I did it, but I think the union, the UPA, l'Union des producteurs agricoles in Quebec, they did everything, and they put a lot of money in Beauce, telling to dairy producers, don't support Maxime, that we will be able to have a free trade agreement with the US, we'll keep our privilege, don't believe Bernier and don't support him. So again, the cartel was very active in Beauce. But anyway, we did our best, and we'll see. I can tell you that I was disappointed for sure, but at least, I was out there telling the truth to people in Beauce.
Yeah, there was a lot of people rooting for you, Maxime, and there are a lot of powers that be that have been influencing our elections for some time. I love what a woman said down in the States that was lobbying for the unions to be defunded, to be banned, because they have become these Marxist socialist power groups, and they're using their members' funds in order to attack our sovereignty and our freedoms and not allow democracy to unfold naturally. Now, let's talk about what happened to Pierre Poilievre and his riding. I understand that there was 91 candidates in his riding, and it was said that, I'm just looking for my notes, it was a group called The Longest Ballot, and it's a group that tries to get as many candidates on a ballot to call attention to the idea of an independent electoral reform process. And so they targeted Carleton, Pierre Poilievre's riding, and 85 of the 91 candidates had the same agent. and so, it was a targeted attack, it sounds like, against Pierre Poilievre. And, after 20 years of being in office and serving in that riding, he has lost. And so now tell us a little bit more about what may be coming for Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, but speaking about that, I think we can have an electoral reform, that a financial agent must be a financial agent for only one candidate. And actually, Danielle Smith in Alberta tabled a bill saying that. So that's great. And for our electoral process, like I said, we need to have one day of votation. The day of the election, it must be an holiday for everybody. And, you must come and vote with your ID, with your photo and your address. And that's it. If you don't have your ID with your photo, you won't be able to vote. We need to do these changes. The good news on our electoral process, is that, as you know, we are counting votes by hands, and that must stay like that. Speaking about Pierre Poilievre, the good news for him, he was able to have more MPs. That's a good news. And also the percentage of the vote, he did very well nationally. The bad news, he was not able to win his seat. And he said that he's going to stay and fight. And yes, he will need to fight, because I know the Conservative Party. I know that Doug Ford is interested to be the leader. They will have some discussion about that. And I believe that he will ask one of his candidates in Alberta to resign. And like that, we will have a by-election in that riding. Poilievre would be the candidate. He will be able to be elected, and he will be able to go back in Parliament and fight the Liberal government. But, he will have a lot of pressure coming from his MPs and members to maybe have a leadership contest. I don't know if he will be able to stay the leader for a year, but that's a big challenge. I'm saying if he's able to keep his job until next year, it will be good to be the leader for the next election. But I know the Conservative Party of Canada, they will do everything. They did that to Andrew Scheer, who was not able to win. Andrew Scheer didn't have two chances. They did that to O'Toole, was not able to win, didn't have two chances. And now Poilievre was not able to win. And so the question is, will he be able to have another chance? And for me, he didn't win, not because of the People's Party. They were saying split the vote. No, we didn't split any vote. And he didn't win because he was not a conservative. He decided to have the same platform than the Liberals on the most important issues.
That's right.
And he was in that fight against Trump. And he was saying tariffs are okay, taxing Canadians, it's okay. Trump is our enemy. Instead of saying, no, Trump is not our enemy. Our economy is not going well. This is the changes that we must do. Balance the budget, cutting with the surplus, lowering tax to every Canadian. But that was not his platform. Big deficit like Carney. So he was not a real conservative, and he was not able to win. And actually, that's why Trump didn't support Carney. But what he said in an interview, he said, I don't like Poilievre. Why? Because Trump knows the rhino in the U.S., Republican in name only. Yeah. And he did fight them. And now the Republican Party is a real Republican Party. So he's looking at Poilievre, that is a conservative in name only. So he doesn't want to support a guy that is not conservative.
In times of financial uncertainty, securing your wealth is more important than ever. With inflation, market instability, and economic challenges, many Canadians are turning to one timeless strategy: precious metals. Gold and silver have historically retained their value, offering a hedge against economic turmoil and a safeguard for your assets. If you're looking to invest, there's good news for members of Action for Canada. We're proud to announce our partnership with Steve Merrill of Sun City Silver. Steve is not only a friend of the Freedom Movement, but he's also offering Action for Canada members exclusive access to some of the best pricing in Canada. Thanks to his extensive client base and affiliation with Silver Gold Bull, you can now secure your precious metals at incredible rates. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader with live pricing available 24/7 and nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. When you purchase through Steve, you're not only investing in your future, you're also supporting the Freedom Movement, as a percentage of each sale helps support Action for Canada. Plus, there's a bonus. If you place an order of $5,000 or more, you'll receive a 1-ounce pure silver bullet, a unique and valuable addition to your collection. And if you refer someone who places a $5,000 order, you'll get another silver bullet as a thank you. To get started, visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment. But with Steve Merrill's guidance and our partnership, you'll be on the right path to securing your future. Secure your assets, protect your future, support the movement. Visit us today to learn more.
Yeah, they really went down a wrong road there. It left a lot of us. And for those of us that are truly wanting the best for Canada and to vote in the right direction, we understand we are fed up with trying to vote for the lesser of two evils. I've been at this 10 years. And when I had started this, Andrew Scheer was the leader of the Conservative Party. He was such a letdown. It would be the 11th hour before he would pop his head out of the sand and talk about an issue that was really relevant days before a vote, like on Motion M103 or the Global Compact on Migration. There was no conviction there on the issues that conservative Canadians, that any reasonable Canadian was concerned about, watching our sovereignty slip away from us. And, when you were running for leadership as well, that got stolen, in my opinion. And it's just like this rot at the executive level within the Conservative Party. So it almost doesn't matter. There's some really probably very nice MPs that are running for the Conservative Party, but they really have zero voice because the executives have way too much power. And that has to come to an end. And that's why Action for Canada was, going out of our way prior to the election to bring as much attention as we could to the People's Party of Canada, to also highlight the Christian Heritage Party. It's like, you have choices here. And we're trying to bring awareness to how populist officials are really rising up throughout Europe and the UK. And as well, really, Trump was part of a populist movement as well. If we were to look at it, it was a groundswell of concerned citizens who knew it was, that it was going to be, live or die on this next election if they didn't stop compromising and put everything they had into getting the people elected that were going to really commit themselves to the kind of change that was needed. And look at the United States and look at the other nations in Europe and the UK that got those people in because they didn't vote by fear anymore. And what are we going to do within 2 years to change that mentality?
Yeah, it's a big challenge, but I can tell you that during the campaign, I was traveling across the country and I've met a lot of social conservative, and they were telling me that they will vote for Poilievre. And I looked at them and I said, you have another choice. You have the People's Party. We will reopen the question on abortion, and you have the Christian Heritage. Don't tell me that you'll vote conservative if the most important for you is life and you want to end abortion, and you will vote for the conservative when Poilievre said that he won't do anything, is pro-choice. And you have Rob with the Christian Heritage that is telling you what he will do, and you have us here. At least your choice must be between the People's Party and the Christian Heritage on that issue if it's the most important for you. I was telling them the truth,
Yeah. No, and it was very clear where you stood. So after 10 years of going into every single election and everybody panicking, we just need to get rid of the Liberals. And it's like, at some point, if they could understand that movement towards change, it happens by getting a few of the candidates from the party that is really committed to that change into the House to speak on our behalf. And if there was a conservative vote on something, whether it was the Christian Heritage Party candidate or the People's Party candidate, if the Conservatives were tabling a bill that we were in agreement with, both those parties would be supporting it. And so there is power in that, but people don't seem to be able to break that barrier in their mind in order to say it is sacrifice. But, that election, we didn't win this election, but we would have won if we got 3 PPC and a Christian Heritage Party candidate in, because it would have built towards the next election. And I say, who knows, maybe some of the conservative candidates who are conflicted within the Conservative Party, knowing it's liberal light, maybe they would even cross the aisle and join you.
And during the campaign, what was the most disappointing for me is I did a couple of rallies, and I had, about 3 times a person who came to me and he said, Maxime, I voted for you in 2019, I voted for you in 2021, but this time we need to get rid of the Liberals and I won't support you. And that person came in my rallies, and I was telling him or her after that, why that person must not do that. But coming to a rally, being a PPC supporter and believing in the narrative and saying, oh, it's time, I will support the conservative. What I want to say is, what we are doing, it's a revolution. It cannot happen in one election. And the best example of that is Nigel Farage in UK. Mm-hmm. It took him 8 times to be elected in parliament in UK, 8 elections, mm-hmm. and to do that revolution. And at the last general election, he was able to have 15% of the vote. But with 15% of the vote, because of the parliamentary system, he was able to elect only 6 candidates, including himself. And now, after more than a year and a half, he is winning in the polls. If there's a general election in UK, he will be the prime minister. But it took him 8 times, 8 elections. Yeah. So our message is good. People are not ready right now, and we need to be out there and to inform them and educate them. And actually, the time is telling us that we are right about immigration. You remember that, Tanya? We were right in 2019. We are right now with mass immigration. And now we must speak about radical Islam that is in our country everywhere. They're doing their prayer, in the street in Toronto and in Montreal. It's provocation. We need to stop that. We need to have a discussion about that, and we will. But the conservatives, the liberals, the mainstream media won't speak about that. But Canadians, they need to understand that. They need to know that we are there to fight for them.
Yeah, it's all this political pandering. I mean, that political pandering is just a made-up word in order to conform to immigrants' way of life when they enter Canada, and they need to learn to conform to Canadian values and principles. Otherwise, this is the wrong country, and we need to start talking straight talk. I'm not worried about hurting immigrants' feelings. I care enough about them to maintain our sovereignty. Otherwise, why did they leave the hellhole that they were living in to come to Canada, only to bring their failed foreign systems of governance and belief systems here and expect us to adopt them? So no, we're not going to adopt Islam's, political ideologies. We're not going to adopt Sikhism and Hinduism and Buddhism. They're in the wrong country, and it goes against our core documents, the founding documents of Canada, which is founded on a Christian nation. We have a right to protect that sovereignty. And so we need to get bold about this, and we need to talk straight talk. And I just want to give people encouragement, because one of Action for Canada's main topics is definitely immigration from countries who want to bring those values here that are totally anti-Canadian. We will never unite. Islam and the West have never been able to coexist together. I don't want to hear anything from anybody about, oh, I know a nice Muslim. There isn't, there may be nice Muslims, but they're disobedient to their doctrine because it says to, when the population gets high enough, to kill the infidel. That's you and me. That's us. And so that's just not compatible with our Western democracy. And if they can't find enjoyment in the 56 Islamic majority countries, then we need to say, I'm sorry, you have a certain belief system, but it's not going to be, we're not going to compromise our sovereignty and the safety of this nation to accommodate it. And the point I wanted to mention was, down in the United States, we hear a lot about Texas and Epic City and this huge mosque that was going to be built there on many acres. And it was going to be a Sharia compliant and Islamic society within the American society. And it's happening in Michigan and other places where the Muslims are very boldly and under the radar coming in and getting these pieces of property and bringing Sharia law, which is anti-Canadian. It's actually in violation of our Canadian Constitution and the American Constitution. Well, finally, the governor of Texas is coming out boldly, speaking out against Epic City, and they're actually doing now investigations. They're investigating the leaders who are well-known imams that pose significant security threats to Americans. So I am praying that Trump is going to take this very seriously, and that ripple effect will start in other nations, and that we can take down Islam. And that's got to be one of the central ones. And I personally am very, very discouraged that that wasn't one of the main topics during the election. And I thank you for being willing to talk about this issue, Maxime.
Yeah, no, it's important because our goal, is to save our civilization, to save this country. I said, we are the last hope. When I'm saying we, Action for Canada and political parties like Christian Heritage and us, we understand what is happening. We can see what happened in France with Marine Le Pen and what they did to her to be sure that she won't be a candidate. I think she will be able to be a candidate. But, our society, our Western societies, how come we are opening our doors to everybody? But, in Japan, they don't do that. They are very proud of their culture. There's no, multiculturalism over there. Mm-hmm. And here we must open our doors to everybody. And it must be, a right to be a Canadian. No, it is not. It is a privilege. And that's why we need to have that moratorium as soon as possible to stop all that.
Right. And there needs to be a government that's going to come in and mandate that. And I believe it's already actually legislation that people need to either speak English and French when out in public. It's like the Tower of Babel around here. I'm in one of the hubs in Surrey of the highest rate of immigration, and there is nobody that speaks English. And I'm not exaggerating. I'll walk down the street and there's not one person I can pass that is actually speaking English when I pass them standing at the bank, the grocery store. That's problematic. If I want to live in Pakistan, I'll pack my bags and go live in Pakistan. If I want to live in India, the same. And so it's very disrespectful to our country for these people to come here and do this. My mom came from the Netherlands with her 4 older brothers and my grandma. When they came here, they spoke English in public. And I says, Mom, she's very specific about telling me that. And I says, why was that? And she says, because we had so much respect for Canadians, and we were so grateful to be here. And they never received a dime from the government. Yeah. And that all has to stop. And I know the PPC was going to put an absolute stop to all of these government handouts. It is critical and essential, Maxime. And so we are going to be working at Action for Canada very hard. I know that people took that as a real hit to the gut to see the election results. And but you know what? The other person that I want to mention as an example is Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, who for 20 years has been under security because of the huge population that has grown in the Netherlands. And he is committed to banning the Quran, to banning the mosque, to shutting these things down, because he is very boldly speaking about how Islam is a threat to national sovereignty. We see that throughout France, Britain, because we don't have elected officials who are willing to absolutely close the door on this one. And so we got to learn from these elected officials. He also won a majority after brutal 20 years of fighting for that. So Maxime, thank you for not, I'm sure you must feel some days of discouragement, but you have the tenacity that we need to consider where that is coming from. That is coming from a place of fear in people. And we're going to continue to pray for Canadians that they can move past that and really get involved, not give up. Now is not the time to give in. What is that? It says, never give up, never surrender. And this is a time to fight harder than ever. And that we also got to lobby that the 4.6 visa holders that are about to expire this year, they need to get deported so that we can get things under control in Canada. And so I know you have another appointment to be at, so I want to respect that. Is there any closing words that you would like to extend to our viewers? We're also out on social media and getting some good views there, and so I'm sure they'd love to hear a word of encouragement from you, Maxime.
Yes, Tanya. First, I want to thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to be with you, have that discussion, and being with your viewers. And for us, the main message is the People's Party is there. We're going to be there at the next election. And it's always the same fight. But the time is on our side. Look at what is happening in Europe, like with Nigel, with Marine Le Pen, in the US with Trump. Our time will come. We just need to fight. And I want to thank you and your organization, Action for Canada. You are, I was traveling across the country and I was able to meet some of your people in charge of your chapters. They're very active. They're there. You need to build your organization. We need to build our own organization also. But the future is on our side if we are standing up and speaking out about our ideas without, with courage and conviction, because sometimes it can be difficult to express your point of view. But you are doing that, I'm doing that, and I believe that the future would be better. But maybe before that, it can be a tough time for our country. But we will be there, and you will be there. We will do that fight together. And I know that we will win. What I don't know is when, but our time will come. Thank you, Tanya. And so let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time, Maxime. I hope you get a little bit of rest. Enjoy some time with your family, and then just let's get going again. So thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. Woo, all right. Well, thank you. I'm so grateful to Maxime and the People's Party and all of the candidates. I'm grateful to the Christian Heritage Party and Rod Taylor, and them maintaining that bar of morality and biblical standards in Canada. And that's what this battle is about. This is, I always say, an epic battle between good and evil. And even those people that would call this a secular nation are realizing, yeah, this is a pretty big battle. And I can't deny that there's evil in the world any longer, after experiencing what's happened in the last 10 years, and especially the last 5 years as we traversed through the so-called COVID-19 and saw the extent of the depravity and cruelness that these globalist leaders were willing to go to in order to eliminate human beings from the earth and to divide citizens. And that battle continues in Canada. The leader of the Liberal Party is very much infiltrated in the global agenda. And so thank God, thank the Lord that he has a minority government. And so we need to really focus on lobbying government. And I really genuinely mean that. We have to appeal to our elected officials at the community level. And I've said many times that the World Economic Forum declared that the communities, the municipalities were closest to the people, and that's how they could promote and implement the greatest change. You see that with them providing all these government financial incentives to insert these 15-minute cities, and just on so many levels, the radical LGBTQ mob, the mafia, I call them, that are going after our children and have somehow infiltrated our school boards. This happens at the community level. And so Action for Canada is going to continue to work to build chapters. We need good, solid, strong chapter leaders to join us. This is not a time to give up. This is an appeal to Canadians. We've lost chapter leaders over the years. Some, unfortunately, had passed away. Some grew weary. Some had medical difficulties. And to be honest, some had a problem with Action for Canada's stand for a lack of knowledge where the stand was when I started talking about the globalist agenda to use the natives, the so-called Indigenous people, as pawns in order to steal Canadians' land and to victimize this group of people, and also to, with the purpose of this massive wealth transfer, hundreds of billions of dollars, and on initiatives like the Kamloops initiative against the false narrative of these mass graves, which is a complete hoax, and then millions and millions of dollars that are unaccounted for. This is happening consistently. And so, you know what? I'll take the hit in the chin initially when we speak boldly about some hard truths, because they need to be heard. And it may take 6 months, and it may take, a year for Canadians to catch up to what it is that we're trying, the message that we're trying to reveal to them, the truth and the facts, because you've been brainwashed for so long. And so this is a real chore. And so we need to grow Action for Canada. I think that our team has stood the test of time, and that we have earned the public's trust in the way that we've managed everything. We've got our legal action against the BC and Liberal government still moving forward. We have the legal action that's been commenced against Action for Canada by this drag queen with this fraudulent, trumped up charges against Action for Canada, false defamation claims. And so we're going to be fighting that. We need your financial support. We need your monthly commitment and the one-time gifts. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our monthly donors, to thank everybody who is sacrificially giving those one-time donations, because you keep us going and it is miraculous. And I also want to thank our team, the majority of who are all volunteering their time, sacrificially, but willingly volunteering their time for this fight. And then there's the very small national team that we have that do get some funding, but I'm telling you, it is just so minimal. But again, sacrificial. We are doing this willingly because we believe in this country, and we believe that the fight is worth it because the future generations are relying on it. So these are desperate times, call for desperate measures. This calls for me appealing time and time again, please support Action for Canada. We're not going anywhere. And I don't want to get up every day. I don't want to feel like just quitting because we don't have support. And what the reason I say that is because we were calling people to come and attend Waterloo, the Waterloo Catholic School District, on Monday night. And I hear that about 30 of our people showed up, compared to 100 of the LGBTQ colorful people. So how bad do we really want to rescue our kids from the hands of this evil snare? And we all, the weather is getting better. You can see I'm not boasting a suntan. I sit inside and watch the sun outside, and I long for better days. And, I've given up a lot around my home in taking care of it. I'm trying to commit some time now to catching up on a few years of things that I need to take care of. But there is sacrifice that we all need to put forward in order to win this battle. And yes, I am praying that an election will be in 2 years and that we will see a better result. But I'm going to just tap into your conscience here a little bit, and to your goodness, and to the things to think. And sometimes you say, well, there's no use going to that event because we're losing. No, there's every reason to go to that event. And in a couple of weeks, I'll do the Empower Hour. Well, I'll give a weekly update. And it was in Dublin, where it must have been 100,000 people came out on the streets opposing the mass immigration of all the Muslims coming into their country. And so we see these crowds of Palestinians and Muslims showing up on our streets. Can you imagine if Canadians committed that kind of time to come out in the hundreds of thousands? And then our elected officials say, yeah, which way do you want to politically pander on this? All right. So there is so much that we could do, and we've got some really great ideas, but we need commitment. We really need commitment, and show up at our chapter leader meetings, because, they need your support. And we've got some really incredible campaign strategies and resources that have been very effective. And they would be so much more effective if we had the kind of numbers we needed to overturn this. We can prolong it another 10 years, or we can get her done in the next 2 years. So you decide. Okay, that's all the guilt tripping, and I'll get off my my little milk box carton here right now, and we're going to talk about next week's guest. I am super excited. Talk about wins. We are going to have Dr. Charles Hoff come on. He is so special. He is just such a man of integrity. Talk about being on the front line of the battle and the fight, and never surrendering, never giving up, and never compromising. And so he won just an amazing battle against the BC College of Physicians. They knew that he was no match because of the evidence that he was putting forward. And I just want you to know that this is the evidence that Action for Canada filed back in 2021. And people criticized us for a really huge notice of civil claim, which is now down to about 40 or 50 pages there. We filed again in December. And this is just a great example of why they're so afraid to get us into court. And so the College of Physicians didn't want to go up against Dr. Charles Hoff. I'm so pleased. We're going to honor him next week and have him on the show and support him, continue to support him, and give him our thanks. It's just, so much loss personally that he has endured in the background, that the majority of the public don't know the battle that he was going on a personal level and a professional level. They burned down his town, for instance. I mean, how scary would that be? And how worried are the globalists if they're going to go to that extent? It's been some challenges. So be sure to join us next week. The Bible verses for today are from 1 Timothy 2, 1-2. It's going to be good. I urge then, first of all, that requests, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. You will not believe the power of prayer, even in the face of evil kings, of evil rulers. And it says that God he's still on the throne. He hasn't moved. He's in charge of everything. I've been saying this for years, that he will raise up evil rulers so that a country will get back to living a moral, biblical life founded on biblical principles. Those are good things like you shall not murder and you shall not lie and you shall not commit adultery and you'll honor your fathers and mothers. Look what's going on in our country. All of the 10 commandments have been broken. You shall not have for yourself other gods, and false teachings. Look at our nation, what a mess it is, because we opened the door. We didn't expect these people to integrate and assimilate. No. That's okay. You go set up your mosques and your temples and you bring all your failed evil systems here. And, all those cultural belief systems are failing in those countries. And the majority of those citizens are living miserable lives. And now they're bringing all of that here because we didn't close the door on it. So those are biblical principles. And so whether you're a Christian or not, you can embrace this. Otherwise, you know what? You're going to be living in the 57th Islamic majority country maybe, or something similar to Pakistan. Like, I don't even want to go visit any of those places, to be honest with you. And I'm not enjoying what I'm seeing coming into Canada. And I think we can agree. So when we pray for our kings, I will pray that either Lord raise them up or take them out. Sometimes it's as simple as that because I know how evil they are. And last week I talked about that vengeance is the Lord's. But when we also, I want to clarify at this time, I had put a post out there asking people what they thought about capital punishment, the death penalty. And because it's actually biblical in Ezekiel, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And somebody came back with a Bible verse that says, vengeance is the Lord. I says, we're not talking about vengeance. We're talking about justice. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between those two. And so sometimes with the kind of crimes that have been committed against our children and the kind of mass murder that has been committed in our land, sometimes that justice involves the death penalty. And that's actually biblical. All right, so our final closing verse is Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And that is the note that I want to leave you with, because that was what Maxime was saying. He's not giving up. Action for Canada is not giving up. And we can't have you give up because we need you as foot soldiers. Let me try that again. We need you as foot soldiers joining us in this battle. So God bless you. And we continue to pray with everything we've got that God will bless Canada.
Chapters across the nation. We are going to be in every town and every city, and we are going to build communities within these communities of like-minded people who are actually going to care for one another again and love on each other and give each other the help when they're down. We are going to use the teams and the people that build within chapters to support our businesses. The government's actions are completely 100% unlawful. Judgment will again be found on justice, and those with virtuous hearts will pursue it. You have a virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness. says he will turn the sins of evil people back on them. He will destroy them for their sins. I take great comfort in that because I serve a mighty living God who has allowed us to go through this season of discomfort because we as a nation had turned our backs on him and we need to get right. So I am just going to thank you so much. I'm going to say God bless you and God bless Canada.